I love AI, but I also love connections with humans, right? And my goal is to try to make sure that I never lose the connection to our employers, to our employees, to our carriers, to our team.
Well, welcome into today's podcast. This is the Connected Conversations in Insurance. My guest today is Charles McDade. He's pretty well known in this space, but he is the owner of McDade Insurance Brokerage Group. And fun fact, he was the first insurance agent I had met when I first joined Canopy Connect over 3 years ago. Our then head of sales said, "Hey, this is the guy that you got to meet. He's going to give it to you straight, tell you how it is." And I didn't realize you had gone back even further with our company, almost back to its origins with Tolga. So you were really instrumental in kind of shaping how this worked and kind of what the user experience was like. And I think that's thank you so much for being a part of that journey with us. Charles McDade, thanks for joining us on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it. And no, it feels like time flies, especially after COVID.
Yeah.
Everything's much faster than we imagined. So, no, I absolutely love y'all. I love always being able to work and connect and kind of collaborate with you. And again, to yourself as well. Hey, congratulations on your promotion as well.
That's right. That's right. Well, I know that you and I are both superhero fans. I can see a little Black Panther mask in your background there. And I know we connected on that when we first met a while back. So I'm going to wrap this in a superhero motif this episode because, in your own way, you're a superhero to all of us. But hey, what's your origin story? Let's frame it. What's your insurance origin story?
Like most superheroes, it was not part of the plan, right? It's always one grand and fun accident that kind of pops up and happens. So for me, that was really a callback to my grandfather and actually the last big recession that we had, especially here in Houston, with NASA closing down. He was working in the IT space, working with NASA. And it was a family business that he was running and maneuvering. And I wanted to jump on and help save that business and put it into a good area. And me and my grandfather had our moment of disagreement where I decided that maybe getting paid $0 a month and having $300 on a credit card was the best idea. But in actuality, it was one of those superhero moments of realizing that sometimes your family, sometimes people you love and care about are protecting you in their own way. So instead of telling me the businesses that we had for the family was kind of going under, not doing too well, his decision instead was to insult me greatly to get me to power up and focus on what I needed to. So I actually decided to find a job as quickly as possible to make sure that I could make him rue the day that he ever offered me no money whatsoever. And I kicked up and ran with Liberty Mutual for the first 6.5 years of my career. So my origin story is one of resilience and I guess a sprinkle of spite. So I'll take it for what it's worth.
Hey, you gotta have a little dark spot, that
Yeah,
gets you there,
exactly.
right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Batman fell down the hole and bad things happened to his parents and all that, but you gotta have
And
that dark
then
moment to rise.
absolutely. And then I had the fun moment of actually waiting my 2 year non-compete and having that dark moment again where I started the agency as soon as COVID happened. I
Yeah.
literally got all the documents together and then boom. So I decided to go independent in 2020 after my 2 year stint. And hey, we kicked it up and ran. And I realized that writing on paper, shake hands and kiss babies doesn't really sound like a superhero manifesto during that point in time. It's like, no, go digital quickly and help advance the market as much as possible. So we actually kicked up McDade Insurance in 2020 and have had a roller coaster of fun since then. So no, that's kind of how it goes and how we end up here. So that's how my background kind of maneuvered through.
Yeah. So I'm always curious about this. As you got started, I know you're with Premier Group Insurance. What was your process, I guess, first thinking like, hey, I need help. I can't necessarily do this alone. I need my super team. But how'd you come to you want to go that route of joining an agency network and then actually selecting a network to work with?
Absolutely. I mean, and a lot of people run around and chase just percentages, not
Yeah.
realizing how much the relationship, how much the connection really matters. So when it comes to PGI specifically, for me, it was trying to figure out who exactly was the best partner with the carriers that I loved and cared about most. Being up there for Travelers, Safeco, Progressive, like having good and hearty relationships. It's one of those things that a lot of agents don't look at in the beginning, and they really, really should, which is, hey, who are your kind of top five, top 10 carriers? Because if who you're looking to sell is their small line, there's not a lot of ebbing and flowing that they're able to do, not a lot of a negotiating that's possible with some of these carriers. So it might be great if you're going with XYZ huge large folks out of nowhere, but when the people that you're trying to have a relationship with, the carriers you're trying to have a relationship with, are unable to facilitate because of just where they are on the tiering board, well, that starts getting things shaky really fast. So a big thing for me, kind of like that number one point is, hey, carriers, and not just carrier access, but also, hey, who matters to the mega group agency that you're joining? Because if you're not looking at that, it makes things very, very difficult to build that relationship long term. You don't want to be a big fish in a small pond where you're selling a bunch of a very, very small carrier for your specific MGA, if that kind of makes a little bit of sense. The secondary thing for me when it comes to Premier Group is coming out there, meeting the people, chatting with people. I actually talked to Sean as kind of my first point of contact, trying to get things up, ready to go. He was huge between me, Taylor Dobby, and just trying to get things lined up for me hitting the ground running again during that 2020 season. He allowed for a lot of the carriers that would normally be put on the back burner for a second, just by having the conversation of what I was trying to do, where I was trying to go, and then kind of push some of those things forward depending upon what my structure needed to be in growing. So those are kind of the two biggest items when I'm looking at joining an MGA on what exactly matters. Again, access and people.
Yeah. And I think that often goes overlooked, right? Because like you said, a lot of people chase the percentages or I'll get this view of things, but what matters like how you're going to lift, especially when you're coming from scratch,
Hmm.
is having a support network, having your own vision, but you know, having others around you kind of help you see that vision and push you towards it. So
Correct,
that's
correct.
awesome.
And something else to add that y'all kind of seen, there's been so many since 2020 carriers that have went online and have been super incredibly competitive and then all of a sudden lost themselves in that particular mark, right? So there's a lot of scratch agencies that decided that they were going to go with these super small, super underpriced regional carriers that cause more harm than good at times. Whenever you're just writing a bunch of monoline home policies and you're not able to have that relationship with your people, especially that early on, it looks like you're selling a policy and then it's canceling in a couple months or a couple of years due to unforeseen circumstances. But at the end of the day, that's the story, no matter how fast or how slow it happens, of a lot of smaller regional carriers if they're not ones that use some type of tech edge or use something to their advantage to be able to write better business.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, these companies and carriers coming in and just listing themselves underneath what it is that is the standard market is a recipe for disaster, especially a smaller agency like myself. So being able to kind of bounce those things off of a large network, of being able to understand, oh, we're losing about this much here, we're losing about that much there, and to grow that into something fantastic has been amazing and a huge helpful piece.
Speaking of people and support, you were recently elected to the Independent Insurance Agents of Houston board, the first African American on the board. That just went down. So tell me more about that. Tell me about how you got involved initially and then how you ended up kind of getting up into the board. position?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it all boils down to insurance. It's a big industry, as my folks at the Insurance Guys podcast always used to joke, but it's a small community. So if you're doing business in and around Houston, especially for going on like 14 years for myself, it gets to be to the point where there's a couple of great people that you have to know. And a lot of those lines either lead me over to NIA, the National African American Insurance Association, led me over to the Independent Insurance Agents of Houston. Either way that the effort and flow goes, it's one of those where you're going and finding other folks that are like-minded with the idea that more and more people need to know, grow, and understand the network around them. And especially since COVID, what I've noticed has been many, many people getting into the industry, maybe with outside experience, but then not realizing there's a bigger collaborative space available. And once kind of my eyes were open to this kind of area of need, it became very prevalent very quickly that, like, hey, as much as we can get every single side, whether it's IAH, whether it's NIA, whether it's LIA, whether it's any of those areas and events or RIMS, like anything that's insurance related, there we should all have a common place, common space, and a general knowledge of each other as successfully as absolutely possible. So how that ended up happening was exactly that. I had a goal and a vision in mind of trying to make sure that as many great people could kind of see each other and connect as much as possible. So I actually worked with IAH on a joint event, sponsored it, came out of pocket for my agency, for McDade Insurance, just to really kind of say, hey, let's get a couple folks that have never been in and around the room with each other, and let's see where things are going. Well, we ended up having a fantastic event. It was at Kirby's Ice House over here in Houston, a good old mixer, where we had about 120, 130 people that had never really been in and around the same room together, actually be able to sit down, commingle, and collaborate. And through that, the conversation started arising of, well, hey, like, I know you've been an agent. I know you've been here and been active in and around the community. Hey, Charles, would becoming a board member and kind of watching and being able to facilitate this transition a bit greater, would that be of value to you? Absolutely. So I decided to throw my name in the hat, get looked at, get verified, have details, get the agencies in and around to have their vote, have their words be known. And the funniest part was, it wasn't until hours after that the question kind of came up in and around, and me having a conversation where they asked, well, hey, Charles, I know you just got elected. Well, when was the last time? And I kind of sat there for a second and I thought, so I just went out there and just sent out the email to the executive team asking, well, hey, when was the last time that we'd seen one? They went and did a little bit of digging. One person said, oh, well, I'm not 100% sure. Been here for 7-8 years. We're going to have to ask someone else. They ended up asking, and about an hour after the original question was broached, they said, hey, it should have absolutely happened sooner, but we just need to tell you that actually you were the first one. And I know this is a superhero show and you want to end up talking a little bit about how so excited we were to break through. I'll be blunt. There's a lot of questions and a lot of responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility.
There you go.
And an understanding that you are the first, it kind of comes to be your charge to make sure that you're not the last. Mm-hmm. Right. In knowing that in 101 years that there was absolutely other people that could have had the option. None of the people on the board, none of the agencies on the board that had this conversation had anything to do with the last 100 years. But I can say that I'm very proud of the fact that they looked at the content of my character. They looked at who I was, what I represented, and what I was trying to do, and made their decision based on that and purely on that. I'm very blessed that it wasn't a let's hurry up and find someone to squeeze in at year 99, right? Yeah. I'm happy that it was done with all love and all best intention as much as absolutely possible. And I just thank all of them, all the agencies of Houston, for seeing a little bit of themselves in me. And I just hope to take that banner and elevate it, do a little bit better from what we've seen before. And I pray to all things to earn the charge that they've given and to serve my community as faithfully as absolutely possible. From insurance and everything underneath, we need to make sure that we're protecting those that care and value us the most.
Yeah. And, this is one of the things that I've come to know about you, is that you care like deeply about what you're doing. You care about protecting your clients and not your clients, right? Just the community in general. And I think you're going to be a fantastic representative for the Houston community and for all of us here in the writ large insurance community, which I think is awesome. Let's have some fun for a sec. Let's talk about some superhero crap. I like to nerd out a little bit. So I got like 4 or 5 questions for you. Go
Mhm.
rapid fire, take as long as you want. Let's easy one. Marvel or DC?
I'm a Marvel fan.
Yeah.
I love my superheroes flawed and human
There you
as
go.
much as possible. So if I have to pick DC, it's always going to be Batman, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely love the fact that his powers is what he can do with his wallet in his head, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's goals for us all, right? Marvel, absolutely Marvel.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I was a Batman fan growing up. I think a lot of us were because the movies were coming out and big then. Who was your favorite hero as a kid?
Oh, my favorite hero as a kid. Man, I loved Wolverine growing up. The X-Men cartoon was out and huge, and they
Mhm.
really made him a huge centerpiece of that conversation. And the fact that he was kind of my first foray into a charming kind of hurt hero motif. And that had really done a lot for me just to always remember that it doesn't really matter what happened in the past. It's about what you're doing with your future. And I've always really loved that about Wolverine.
I remember I started kind of rewatching some of the old 90s X-Men cartoon, and like they covered some deep subjects in that. I may not have
Absolutely.
hit me at the time, when I was watching it and I was 10 years old or whatever, but yeah, it holds up, I think.
Those
They
deep cuts
re-released
get
it.
you. Oh yeah, and with the new one, I was watching some of that with my daughter, and it's all of those parts where you're like, wait a minute, hold on. This part is dark, but they're not worried about it. So it's okay. We'll be fine. So
Now, as an adult, as a parent, community leader, if you will, which hero do you identify with now?
so more now, man. I think the older we all get, the more we kind of start leading into a little Iron Man, right? Where you're trying to do as good as you possibly can, right? And sometimes, man, that might fall on the wrong side of history when it comes to the act of like, oh, let's register all the superheroes kind of conversation. But it's one of those where the you always have to remember that your goals, your effort, where you're trying to get to can be all well and good, but you have to watch how long and how heavily you lead your banner. So
Mhm.
it's always one of those things that helps remind me, all right, hey, I know you know where you think you're going, but what are you sacrificing? What are you doing along the way? And just making sure that I can remember to keep my values, and to allow the priorities to ebb and flow according to whatever season I'm in. Like, hey, if I'm in the cave, let's build something, let's make it better, right? And
Yeah.
let's hurry up and get ourselves out. But now that we're kind of in the world and things, well, hey, what can you do with the abilities that you've been blessed with to make a better life and a better world for those around you? So that's kind of where I'm a little Tony Starky minus the alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. He has this quote in maybe it's Avengers Age of Ultron where he says he wants to put a suit of armor around the world. That's very insurance agenty. Suit of armor
Yeah,
around the
you know,
world. His
yeah,
means to it.
yeah.
I think no one's the villain of their own story. But that's one of those things to think about, and your goals may be noble, but you also do need to constantly check yourself on how you're getting there, what your intentions are. So here's a fun one. Which superhero, so a lot of superheroes have secret identities. Which superhero would have a secret identity of an insurance agent?
Hmm. Man, I wonder. I mean, if we add the alcohol back in, Tony Stark again. I mean, for most agents, right? It's one of those where instead of a suit of armor around the world, it's a policy around the world, cover as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But my goodness, man, a good alter ego. Sorry, a good behind for it. Man, I mean, I know that Peter Parker would make a great underwriter. I mean, hell, the amount of
Yeah.
pictures that he takes and the angles that are
There
possible
you
would
go.
be huge. But as far as for agent, man, my great goodness. I'll have to ride and maneuver with Tony Stark one more time and just
All
wish for
right.
the best of the world. Because hell, we've had a couple of, in trying to ensure everything, we've realized quickly as an industry that not everything is a good idea to insure. So,
Yeah.
in trying to protect everything, at times we get ourselves into a bit of a hard market like we've had recently. So, I'll go that direction with the, again, intentions are good, but how that thing can manifest is kind of difficult to adhere to.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, we can't talk about Tony Stark without talking about tech. So let's talk about some of the tech in your agency. What does your tech stack look like from like a high level? And tell me anything in there.
Absolutely. So as of right now, for our tech stack, it's going to be, I don't think it's a surprise for you, but Canopy is going to be up on them. We'll come
Really?
back to them in that. So of course we end up using EasyLinks because we're connected with the PGI. PGI has a great relationship with EasyLinks, and I will say EasyLinks has done a lot to try to make things dramatically better over the past year with their product. A huge shout out to them. I should end up going to the Applied Net coming up later on this year. So we'll get to see a little bit more about what they're doing and offering. That's my radar and a lot of where our policy details are put. Then we also use HubSpot as our CRM. Insurance is a funny one. We're always about 15 to 20 years behind the curve on a lot of things. Lining and everything out with HubSpot was a huge goal of mine, following suit with some of my favorite agents from in and around. I will say that is a difficult process to handle and still have a lot of learning to do about that process. Next thing up for us is I use a service called AirCall. That's fantastic. It does AI transcript all of my calls as well as save all the recordings and upload all those recordings to HubSpot for the person we're speaking to, which is huge for keeping things safe as an agent. That's been dramatically helpful. All the texts, all the emails, and all the phone calls get uploaded, and it even gives me a summary of the call. So that's been fantastic. Again, that's air call for the calling system. And then, of course, Canopy Connect, y'all are and have been since I think it was 2021. Beginning of 2021 is when I started working with Canopy, and y'all are one of my favorite for a reason. I've been absolutely loving and supportive and poured out as much information to those that would like to join me along that path, because as things have gotten more and more difficult when it comes to finding what type of coverage, what kind of deductibles, and all the changes from carrier to carrier that this hard market has presented. Canopy has been our x-ray goggles into what needs to be seen, done, and handled. And that's been dramatically helpful in pinpointing what exactly is different from one side and one renewal to a carrier secondary renewal, because there are some things that get thrown away, especially here in Houston, on just hail damage, whether or not the roof is replacement costs. I mean, some huge things to look at, especially when you're dealing with a place that's hurricane revolves a lot around hurricanes and that exposure.
Yeah.
Being able to not only walk through that risk, but also allow our clients to make educated decisions around that risk versus this carry just decided to increase it, and them not have someone be able to actually peer into it and then walk them through what that means for them from a dollar for dollar standpoint.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other hot new shiny toys?
Oh, I mean, of course, we're going to be using some chat GPT, for many of things. I love AI, but I also love connections with humans, right? And my goal is to try to make sure that I never lose the connection to our employers, to our employees, to our carriers, to our team behind feeding everything and responding to everything AI related. So it's trying to find that right balance. I will tell you something that I'm actively working on is most emails now are becoming hugely bloated, right? Just because a lot of things get thrown into AI, get read by AI, so on and so forth. So trying to tear it down to where it's a little bit more skimmable, easily readable, and make sense without needing to be kind of torn apart by someone or something else. I think that there's going to be a huge push on, instead of it being a huge blog post of an email response, to genuine specificity.
Any last thoughts you have on, let's say, you know, heroic qualities of an insurance agent? What's something that maybe folks should aspire to do better?
And I think that that's what we have to remember when it comes to insurance, or when it comes to stories. Sometimes we pick up a book and we'll kind of grab it in the middle. And so many things have happened or have occurred in that time frame. And that's kind of what we're doing with people, right? Sometimes we're assuming that we know the whole story just because we picked the book up in the middle. There's been a conversation around how fast you can grow your agency, how quickly you can get to a certain level. And in actuality, there's only one way, and that's through resilience and consistency. If you're the type of person that feels something when a claim happens, when something happens to one of your staff, your team, I think it's your charge to use that love and care to protect and take care of others, and do so with your best ability. It's so difficult sometimes when you're looking around and you're seeing other industries move faster, make more money quicker, all that good stuff. But when you're looking at insurance, if you do the right thing by your clients over decades of time, then there's very, very few people that can stand at the top of that consistent mountain of care and understanding. I would love to be blessed enough to watch my career advance another 5 decades, 6 decades, if my wife will leave me alone, to watch on that mountain of just positive client interactions, of claims paid, of promises made, and of blessings shared. And I would call as many agents that are maybe unhappy at how they feel like they're being forced to write policies, or are unhappy about maybe their day to day, really look at what it is that they're doing in insurance, or how they're being asked to do it in insurance, and just finding your tribe and where you can do and be the best version of yourself. So just to sum it up, if there's enough time and space for you to find people like you that care about others, please lend your banner to those folks, lend that care to those people, and then watch as we kind of build and create a better industry, a better community. And that's kind of my sign off, man. I guess that's where we sit.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks so much, Charles, for joining. Once again, we got Charles McDade from the McDade Insurance Brokerage Group. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome.